a music genre which originated in the deep south of the United States around the 1860s by African Americans from roots in African American work songs and spirituals. Blues incorporated spirituals, work songs, field hollers, shouts, chants, and the rhythm simple narrative ballads. The blues form ubiquitous in jazz, rhythm and blues and rock and roll is characterized by the call and response pattern. The blues scale and specific chord progressions, of which the 12-bar blues is the most common. Blue notes, usually thirds, fifths or sevenths, flattened in pitch are also an essential part of the sound. The name of genre most likely originated from the term Blue Devils, meaning melancholy and sadness. The lyrics often reflect the origins of the genre's name by expressing troubles experienced within African American society. In the 1920s, the blues became a major element of African American and American popular music, also reaching wide audiences via W.C. Handy's arrangements. Various styles of blues flourished in the coming years, such as country, boogie-woogie, urban. Popular blues singers of these times include Bessie Smith, Victoria Spivey, Gertrude Rainey, and Lucille Bogan. By the beginning of the 1960s, genres influenced by blues such as rock and roll and soul were part of mainstream popular music and grew to be larger than even the genres that created them. Due to this, there was a bit of the decline in the genre, but artists like B.B. King still rose with its signature sound. Since the 1980s, there has been a resurgence of interest in the blues among a certain part of the African American population, particularly around Jackson, Mississippi and other deep south regions. American classical music is music written in the United States in the European classical music tradition. In many cases, beginning in the 18th century, it has been influenced by American folk music styles, and from the 20th century to the present day it has often been influenced by American folk music and sometimes jazz. The earliest American classical music consists of part songs used in religious service during colonial times. The first music of this type in America were the psalm books, such as the Ainsworth Psalter, brought over from Europe by the settlers of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. During the mid to late 19th century, vigorous traditions of homegrown classical music developed, especially in New England. Academics view this development as pivotal in the history of American classic music because it established the characteristics that set it apart from its European ancestors. In the 20th century, incidental music saw new heights with the development of the full orchestrated film score. Drawing from the opera, the styles of composition and the rules of Richard Wagner, many early soundtracks include overtures, intermission music, and medleys and concert suites, and a repeat or use of the overture for the end credits, depending on whether the movie was showing opening or ending credits. Over the evolution of the cinema, the music took on greater and greater sophistication with the inclusion of advanced instrument techniques, a multiplicity of musical genres in any given work, and multicultural structures and instrumentation as the film industry. And therefore the music composition industry became more globalist. It exploded in the 1990s in America with the release of many different blockbuster films and a high demand for fully orchestrated soundtracks, but is now often replaced with soundtracks that are entirely Side or Attila's covers songs of famous popular songs or the even composed by popular performers, such as in the soundtrack for 1997 film of Titanic, and the use of many popular songs for specific historical references in the soundtrack for the movie Forrest Gump. Because of the growing common practice of using popular songs combined with a more classical soundtrack, it became a standard to release two soundtracks, with one made of the popular genre selected songs and the original score or film score as mentioned previously. Significant American composers of film music include Wendy Carlos, Danny Elfman, Michael Giacchino, Jerry Goldsmith, Bernard Herrmann, James Horner, James Newton Howard, Erich Wolfgang Korngold, Randy Newman, Alan Silvestri, and John Williams.
Country is a genre of popular music that originated with blues, church music, old-time American folk music forms, and cowboy western music styles of New Mexico, Red Dirt, Tejano, and Texas country. Its popularized roots originate in the southern and southwestern United States of the early 1920s. Country music often consists of ballads and dance tunes with generally simple forms, folk lyrics and harmonies often accompanied by string instruments such as acoustic guitars and steel guitars, banjos and fiddles, as well as harmonicas. In the 1930s and 40s, cowboy songs were finally popularized by films made in Hollywood. Some of the popular singing cowboys from the era were Gene Autry, the Sons of the Pioneers, and Roy Rogers. The genre of country went through many transformations during its prime, such as adding an electric guitar into the mix of commonly used instruments. The most popular artists of country included Arthur Smith, Hank Williams, Ernest Tubb, and Kitty Wells. By the early 1950s, a blend of western swing, country boogie, and honky-tonk was played by most country bands, and by the 1970s, a new subgenre of country had emerged, named country pop. Prominent artists of the subgenre include John Denver, Glenn Campbell, B.J. Thomas, and Dolly Parton. Various bands like Alabama also topped the charts during this time by adopting the mainstream sound of country pop. More modern best-selling country artists include Shania Twain, who is currently the best-selling female artist in country music history and has won 5 Grammys. Emerging in the late 2010s, the fusion of country rap rose to fame with Lil Nas X's hit single Old Town Road, which is the fastest song to ever be certified diamond and is one of the best-selling singles of all time. In 2009, in the United States, country music was the most listened to rush hour radio genre during the evening commute, and the second most popular in the morning commute, making it an incredibly popular genre. Jazz is a music genre that originated in the African American communities of New Orleans in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with its roots in blues and ragtime. It is a major form of musical expression in traditional and popular music, linked by the common bonds of African American and European American musical parentage. Jazz's main instruments are shared with ones commonly used in blues and rock and roll. The genre is characterized by swing and blue notes, complex chords, call and response vocals, polyrhythms, and improvisation. As the genre grew in popularity, it birthed many regional styles such as New Orleans jazz and Kansas City jazz, as well as subgenres like gypsy, cool, free, and modal jazz. Pioneers of the genre include artists such as Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, Charles Mingus, and Duke Ellington, the latter of which would go on to break the conventions of swing, a style of jazz that developed in the early 1930s. Duke eventually gathered people whom he believed to be some of the best in the genre and melded them together to form one of the most popular jazz orchestras ever. In its later years, the genre gained many fusions such as cyklu jazz, which was a fusion of jazz and gospel, as well as jazz rock and jazz funk in the 1970s. The 1990s saw the rise of acid jazz, new jazz, as well as jazz rap, the latter of which would be further developed in the 2010s, mainly with the release of Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly and Kamasi Washington's The Epic.
Rock and roll is a genre of music that evolved in the United States during the late 1940s and early 1950s. It has its roots in Black American music such as jazz, gospel, rhythm and blues, as well as country music. The lead instruments of rock and roll include guitar, piano and saxophone. The pioneers of early rock and roll include artists like Fats Domino, Bill Haley, Elvis Presley and Little Richard. In its early stages, the genre was considered to be no different than R&B, but with the release of the hit single Rock Around the Clock in 1954 by the band Bill Haley and hits Comets, rock and roll was propelled to stardom and differentiated itself from its R&B roots. As quickly as it rose, rock and roll started to decline in popularity in the early 1960s due to many prominent artists in the genre halting music production due to outside causes. Even after its decline, rock and roll still managed to leave a massive and lasting impact on the culture by influencing fashion, language and even contributing to the civil rights movement.
Popular music is classified as a variety of genres with wide appeal that is typically distributed to large audiences. Most forms of music classified as popular can be enjoyed and performed by people with little to no musical training. The two most widely known genres that fall under this term are pop and rap. Rap, also known as hip-hop, is a genre mainly developed in the US by inner-city African Americans. It consists of a stylized rhythmic melody that commonly accompanies rapping, a rhythmic and rhyming speech that is chanted. The genre was formed in the 1970s and entered its golden age during the late 1980s, which developed the gangsta rap subgenre. In the early 1990s, hip-hop was divided into two main regional genres, those being West and East Coast hip-hop. Both regional variants have their own unique sounds and artists. For example, the West Coast had subgenres such as G-Funk and artists like Tupac, while the East Coast is more oriented towards jazz rap, with artists such as Biggie Smalls. The growing popularity of hip-hop in the mainstream led to the rise of artists like Kanye West, who, in 2007, decided to have a sales competition with the prominent gangster rapper 50 Cent to see who would sell more copies of their respective records. They both released their respective albums on the same day, and Kanye's album Graduation went on to sell 300,000 more copies than 50 Cent's album during the first week. This incident is marked by many as the death of gangster rap. This, combined with the release of Kanye's next album, 808s and Heartbreak, marked the rise of the next mainstream subgenre of hip-hop in the early 2010s, known as the blog era. This era is categorized to be more in line with traditional pop music and features the rise of artists such as Drake, Travis Scott, Juice WRLD, and Kid Cudi. During this period of time, various subgenres of rap also flourished, such as industrial, experimental, drill, and horrorcore, with artists like Def Grips, Danny Brown, Earl Sweatshirt, and Clipping. However, these wouldn't garner as much popularity as other subgenres that grew in this period of time, like trap and SoundCloud rap. Due to the massive commercialization of rap over the past decade and the success of artists like XXXTentacion and Post Malone, rap overtook rock in 2017 as the most popular genre of music in the United States.